Good day, everyone, and welcome to Ferg TV. I'm Ray, and I'm glad you're here today. We've got a little video that I'm going to do on this mirror. Now, this mirror is up and it's good and sturdy now. But when we bought this thing on our way home from Bath, New York, it came crashing down, destroyed itself, did damage to the door over here. So I'm going to show you a video of how I repaired this. I own a custom woodworking shop, and it's a business. So they ended up Keystone. It's a redwood trailer, but Keystone agreed to pay my company to do the repairs, and that way there we didn't have to travel and get it done. And I felt like it was done right. Anyway, I'm going to show you a little video on how all of that transpired. In a second, I'm going to bring you up into the shop. I'm going to show you the mirror and how it failed or why it failed. And this is why I don't want anybody else fixing it but me. I'm going to show you this. So you can see all the multitude of holes that these guys put in trying to install this mirror, okay? And I think it might be this area or might even be that area. They had about 3 screws in it. Just wasn't going to work. More importantly, see how that is proud of this surface? Well, when you take and put a screw in to hold this thing, especially down here where they have a 3rd screw in the middle, they don't have one up the top, you've created pressure on that frame to want to back out. Okay, I'm going to go up and show you the frame and why this failed. Let's take a quick look at that mirror frame and I can show you exactly why this failed and how we're going to rectify it. So here's the frame. They put the screws through with a retainer on it, decorative cover on top of it. So here's the screw that's coming through. There's not much screw length coming through, and then remember that head of that other screw is protruding about 1/8 of an inch, going into a soft pine. This stuff is never going to stay on the wall. Now you can see they had all these little nails in it. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. They weren't meant to hold anything. They line it up, they put these nails in it, we'd do the same thing. And that just holds it in place so that you can then put in the retaining screws. So they did all of that properly. The biggest problem is the length of these screws. They probably stripped one of them. I say probably because here's some evidence for you. There's 3 in that little area. Now, only one of them probably actually hit the pine. I don't know what happened there, but we'll take care of all of this. And that's why I said I'll do it. I want to make sure this thing doesn't fall off the wall again. Salted caramel. You gotta love it. Hey, glad you showed up today. We got a little project. We're gonna continue on with our warranty work on the trailer. I showed you in the last video how we took care of the electrical panel. And I told you there was more, and I showed you the broken mirror. Well, since then, the new parts have been coming in. This is the old broken mirror frame. The broken mirror has been taken out of it. This is the new mirror frame that came in that gigantic box. They weren't taking any chances. So I'm gonna beef it up a little bit, right? I'm going to put in some screws to hold it, because all they've got is some corner staples on these things. So I'm getting ready to put these in, and then I'll turn it around and I'll do the other side. Then the next step, because you know, our problem was fell off the wall. So I'm going to do what I usually do when I make up a frame from my fieldstone, which I carry a line of cabinetry. I do a keyhole in the back. So what this allows you to do is hang this on the wall. So a screw will go into that hole and slide up into here, and now it can't come off the wall. It's a coordination thing. It's all about getting the screws all lined up and whatnot, but once those go in, they're not coming off the wall. So we're gonna put 4 of them in, 1 here, 1 there, and 2 more on the opposite side. and then we'll coordinate down at the trailer. I'll locate 4 screws on the pine sub frame that's on the wall. And they have a sub frame because they have a light going around it, so they have to have that on there first. We're also going to recess the screws that hold that, because that's another part of the problem and why this failed. Keystone is paying me to do the warranty because I own a cabinet business. So we're getting paid to do this work. We gave them an estimate, and it's going to vary a little bit because I didn't know that they were sending the mirror through without being installed in the frame. I'm glad they did though, because that's going to allow me to do the keyhole in it. So let me get set up, and I'll show you how we're gonna just screw the corners together, and then we're gonna get set up and put the other screws in. Maybe you'll learn a little something different today, right? We're gonna put our screws into the corners and show you the screws we're gonna use. We're gonna use a 6 by 1 5/8 in the outside and a 6 by 2 1/4 to the inside. The reason that there's 2 different lengths is we've got one is further into the corner and there's more meat to go into. So we're going to drill, pre-drill the hole with a 1/8 inch drill bit. Let's give that a little go. Now it's going to drill easy until it gets to the metal staple there, like a corner staple, and then we'll have to go through that. It'll go through, I know, because I've already done a corner. Yeah. Now we'll get the last, drill them both out and put them both in. Let's see. Here we go. Because of the way the staples are made, they're made on a corner. There isn't really a place here that you can drill that you're not going to hit the metal. So just gotta deal with it. This will be fine. This way here we know the corner's not gonna come apart going down the road. There's just so much vibration and road shock going down the road. I mean, we got a good suspension and an air hitch and everything, but it's still a lot of movement back there. All right, so I'm gonna do the other 2 corners, and then I'll show you how we're going to do the keyhole. Maybe you learned something today, right? Okay, let's see if I can't give you an idea of how this is going to work. The first thing you need to do is figure out what's going to be the top and the bottom. I've marked this top over here. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. It doesn't really matter. I just need to know that that's the top. It's important to know which is top and bottom because we need to route these properly, okay? Because it needs to go on the wall, this being the top and this being the bottom. So the screw would go in the bottom hole and then it would pull down on it so it can't come off the wall. So you have to route it properly. That's the only thing you need to know, top and bottom. So we've got that. So we're gonna line up this bottom mark right there, and we will use our plunge router, go down to a preset depth. It's gonna give me a shoulder inside here about 5/16, almost 3/8, and then we'll route up for 1 inch, and we'll do that on all of these marks. The router's already set up. The jig is based off of 3.5 inches, which is from here to the center of this. So you always work off of center lines. And you notice that I marked frame against here because you need one side that's going to be your side that your measurements are off of, and that determines where your 3.5 inches will be here. So we're all set up, we're ready to go, and keep your fingers crossed, see how this goes. So we're using a plunge router, and the reason that we're using a plunge router is we can set this on and it's all set to go. It'll plunge right down in to our predetermined depth because we have a depth gauge, and then we're just going to hit and run it up. So we're going to go all the way down and then run it up. looks like that bit's getting a little dull, but it did the trick. So as you can see, what happened here is routed our keyhole. We'll blow that out after. But that's going to give us our place for our screws, and these happen to be our screws. We're going to use a number 10 by 1 inch. And so when you go on the wall, it's going to go boom, come all the way down. So then you have to preset your screws on the wall to the right depth, right? So that this won't be loose. Normally when I'm putting a mirror on the wall, I'll just do these, and so they're set and they're snug when they come down. They don't have to be that snug here because we're also going to put our decorative screws with the caps on them to kind of set this in place. So going down the road, this can't come bopping off. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to silicone the mirror in, and this guy's going to be ready to go up there tomorrow. Actually, I'm rethinking that. What I might do, which might make more sense, now that the mirror's not in, I'll take this down and I'll get it all set up so that my screws are proper in the wall. And then I could go from there tomorrow, right? And then put the mirror in and it'd be all set up for tomorrow. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Made it down into the coach with all of our tools and the mirror frame. So now, normally what you would do in somebody's house is you would check for level. But because we're in the trailer, and I know it's got the self-leveling and all of that, but that's not 100%. And I could tweak it and get it level, but is it really worth it? It's more about, is this all consistent? So I just checked the floor, and the floor reads the same as this. So, you know, it's a little low in the nose. So the next thing to check, because we want the mirror to be set properly in here, we need to be consistent with the vanity. So I took a measurement from countertop to bottom of subframe, and again over here, they're both 9.5 inches. So if they're both 9.5 inches, then that's a good point of reference that I can work off of. That means it's all equal, and when you look across, it looks pretty decent. So now what we need to do is, the first thing is I'm going to recess these screws. You can see I just did that one. So now I got to go and do the other. See, that's part of the problem. That's why this thing let go. Remember, the things that I'm doing, I never expect them to do in a factory setup. I don't care if you're working on a Lux, or maybe a Lux and a New Horizons. They spend more time on this stuff. But the other guys, and including Redwood and Hotland, they're nice, and we love this, but my expectations are not that they would be spending the time on this. So I'm going to take the time and do it. And here's the other thing. This is loose. So we're going to get that set in. Whether they hit the stud or not, we'll take a measurement and find out. They might have been just to the side of it and good enough, right? But if they did hit the stud and they stripped it, then we're going to just relocate it a little bit lower. So I'm going to get set up to do those kind of things. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a measurement from here, locate our lower screw, and locate our upper screw, and they also have to be located left to right. And then we're going to put our frame on, and if that fits, we put our mirror in, and then tomorrow we come and hang it. So let me get set up and I'll show you how we're going to accomplish all of this. You'll notice I took a minute, cleaned off the countertop and covered it. Even though I do solid surface and I could sand it, I don't want any scratches in it. I got to take care. So what I found was, no surprise, this screw was not in the stud. This screw was not in the stud. So I relocated that one. I put a wood screw in there because that's basically what they're using. And they're not even the right screws to be using to go into a metal stud to begin with. So with that said, what I'm doing is, and I know it's overkill, and I'm doing it because it's mine, or ours, I'm putting a secondary screw in that is good to go into. This one didn't have a screw, by the way. So that one I added a screw. And I don't want it to sound like I'm knocking everything, but this is the only thing that holds the mirror to the wall. So if you left one out down here, I can give you a pass. But up here, This is really doing all the work. Now you can see that drill, it just went in, it goes through the 1/4 inch, and now it's into the stud. You can tell because you're drilling hard. Okay, we drilled the stud. Now remember, the studs are not metal, the screws are aluminum. They're not steel. So I want to get something in here that I know is going to bite. Boom, okay. So what we're putting in is this screw, which you notice is fine thread and will work well with metal. Now you can't go crazy when you put them in because you're only going into aluminum. But this secondary locking screw is all I'm going to call it. And every one that I put in so far, when I put it in, you saw it pull everything together, which means it's biting well. Boom. Even, flush, no problem. I'm going to be happy with that. Okay, right in. And last one. Okay, everything is in and we are fastened good now, and you saw this crack right here, so I put a supporting screw there and I did one on the other side. In reality, these are not mounted to the wall, but they don't do anything. The reason that they put these together is now it's a complete subframe and keeps this thing square when they put it on the wall, so that they don't have to try to get measurements on all of this. They cut these the same, put them in. I'm only telling you all this stuff so that your expectations are proper when you buy something. Mine, I expected this. I'm not upset. I just know that they're doing all of this stuff. You look, when you walk into a coach, you look at the cosmetics of it. I walk into one, I want to know how it's put together, because that is the devil is in the details. So, I mean, they used solid wood and everything, so I've got something to work with, but I knew you were going to find this kind of stuff. All right, so the next, well, one more thing on that. Had I brought this back all the way up to Bath, which is a 7-hour trip up and a 7-hour trip back, as long as there's no traffic issues, because we hit 0 and it took 7 hours. Then they would have had to work on it while we were there and then come back. It would have been 2 days. Do you really think that the technicians, because they're not mechanics, they're technicians, were going to do all of this to this frame to put that new mirror in? I think I just heard you say no. They weren't. And that's why I was prepared to do this. I am not knocking Wilkins. Not one bit. We had a great experience with them. If I ever bought another one, which we're not planning on, that's why we bought this, we bought what we did, I would use them in a second, and I would tell somebody, go there. Don't feel like you can't deal with these folks. I thought they were very good to deal with, and they've been excellent dealing with me on the warranty part of it. So, not knocking them. Would have been the same anywhere that I went, anywhere. They're just not going to do this. That's me saying that. They could prove me wrong, but I don't think so. So now the next thing that I got to do is I got to locate the screws on for my mirror on this frame. So, you know, I'm going to backtrack a second. This board here and here was not doing anything before, but it is going to do something now. So I think I'll go back and I'll put a toe screw one in top on both of these, because I'm doing something different. I'm hanging the mirror on that, but then I am going to put my other anchor screws in here. So let me do that, and then I'll show you how we're going to mock up and put those other screws in. Bring you up to speed. I did put a couple more screws in here because after I thought about it, we're now supporting off of this, which they weren't doing before. So the next thing that you had to do was you had to locate from the counter up to where the screws were going to go. So it's a simple math deduction. We had to figure out where the frame was going to end up on the mirror. We did our marks. We knew that it was going to be from here to here, 1 1/16 inches. And then we double checked everything. Then we got our measurements to the top of here. And that's actually where we put the screws, because we want the mirror to go in high and then slide up to that point. That's locating it up and down, but we also had to locate it across. Well, everything's not 100% square in here. This is not a home. It's a recreational vehicle, and you got to keep that in mind. Everything's not square and level, so you got to make it look good. It's all about being pleasing to the eye. So then we got our measurement off the wall. You can't run off the wood. I don't know if you can see it, but that's not 100% square there. Whether the wall's off, whether the wood's off, who knows? But we got to the point where we were happy, and we put our screws in. We made our adjustments so that they're at the right height, so that when we slide that mirror on, boom, it's tight. So we're gonna get the mirror frame now, and we're gonna bring that over, and we're gonna put this on, and I'll show you what it's gonna look like. You have to line up your holes, somehow find your finger back there, get it on, you got it? And then slide her down. Okay. So, that's hooked up there, we're happy with that. Next thing is, what does it look like? Well, it looks good, and how does it measure up? It's about 8 9/16 from countertop to bottom, and 8 9/16 over there. That's a success. It's only because I've done them before and I knew what to do, but it is challenging. You're getting the 2 seconds out of all the time it took to do all the measuring, the calculating, the checking everything, the rechecking, and finally putting the screws in. Then when we went to hang this, because we already hung it once, I didn't want to make a mistake in front of the camera, you know. So we had to tweak the screws is all we had to do to get it to the right thickness so that it'll slide down on. Now that is not what's going to hold this mirror only to the wall. These are added over and above what we had before. You can see that this is all overkill, but when you lose the mirror one time, I don't think they're doing a warranty on me the second time. So I want to make sure, especially because they're letting me do it. They're going to say, they were more than happy to let me do it and pay me, because now they're going to say, falls again, it's on you, right? It isn't going to fall. So the next thing that we are going to do, we're going to put our decorative screws and caps, and that's the thing that's going to lock it in, so this can't possibly bounce up and come off. Not that I think that it would, but we're going to make sure that it doesn't. We'll finish this up tomorrow, because for tonight I'm just going to take it back to the shop. I'm going to lay it face down, I'm going to put the mirror in, and I'm going to silicone it in, and we'll give it till tomorrow afternoon before we hang it back up. That's good. Here we are, back at day number 2. Yesterday didn't turn out quite the way I wanted it to. I didn't realize it was that late when I said, oh, I'm going to do this other stuff today. So, we're back today. I did put the mirror, I set the mirror in the frame with silicone, so it'd be ready to be put up today. And here we are. Water today, no coffee. It's not straight water though. We've been mixing a little concoction. 2 bags of green tea, so we didn't brew it, we just drop it in there cold, and a half a bag of Crystal Light, whatever flavor you want. If it's just lemonade, or this was like a pomegranate mix, a hybrid, if you will. I don't know. It was good. And vitamin C, dropped in a half of lemon in there. I'll tell you, quenches your thirst. Okay, Sue is tied up right now. Well, not literally, but she's in the middle of doing something. So I'm going to attempt to put the mirror up myself. We'll see how this goes. I think it'll be all right, because we've already got everything all lined up. Let's find out together. Luckily, it's not that heavy. It's just that it's awkward. So it's going to be all about locating those holes and see how lucky we are. Ooh, that's encouraging. Oh, that's discouraging. It almost feels like it's dropping in. Could this be? Oh, baby. Huh? That's because we did all the work yesterday. So, now it comes down to, how does it look? Does it look right? It looks right, but I gotta put a ruler on it. I don't have a ruler here. How can I not have a ruler with me? Oh, I do have a ruler. A ruler. Okay, let's check it out. 8 9/16. If you were with us yesterday, you remember that was our number. 8 9/16. You know what that means? We can put our screws in. We can put our screws in. Now, I've already pre-drilled because I did all my measurements and I know where the backer is. So, we need our retainers. Oh boy, you know what? They're up in the shop. I'll be right back. We're back. Those are the little retainers. I don't know if you can see them. So what happens here is you put a screw through, you know, all the way in. And then the little cap, you can see it there, decorative, just snaps, you know, onto this retainer. So that's what we're going to do there. So the retainers have to be on the screws, of course, before we put the screws on. Let's see if all the measurements and calculations are going to pay dividends. Oh baby, you know, you just know when it goes in and it's solid. You probably did something right. Nice, nice, nice. So these guys are just, they're the locking screws as far as I'm concerned. The other guys are kind of, you know, holding everything in place. The last one. Okay. So if everything went proper, oh, did you hear that snapping sound? That is the sound of success. That went right on. How about this guy? That went right on. I wasn't happy with the length of the originals. As you remember, the reason that we're doing this is it came crashing down. There you go. Okay. There had to be a fighter in the bunch, right? Okay. That is a success. Well, thanks for joining me today on this little journey of how we repaired this. I hope you enjoyed it. And hey, all our content from this point out is all gluten-free and sugar-free, so you've got no excuse to get in there and push the old subscribe button. I would appreciate it. At the very least, maybe you can give it the old up yours. YouTube loves that kind of stuff. Anyway, I do appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one.